Right now, somewhere in the world, a website is being hit by more traffic in 1 second than it normally gets in an entire month. Not because it went viral, not because something good happened, because something somewhere decided to try and take it down. And the site doesn't crash, it just loads. Same as always, no warning, no delay. The person looking at it has no idea any of this happened. That should bother you a little, because normally, when something is under that much pressure, it fails. A bridge holds a certain amount of weight. Past that, it doesn't hold slightly less well. It fails. A pipe holds a certain amount of pressure. Past that, it bursts. So, why doesn't the internet work like that? Why don't websites just die the second too many people show up at once? There's an answer. And once you see it, you can't really unsee it because it means almost everything you look at online today is being quietly held together by a system you were never supposed to notice. Let's start with the boring part, because the boring part is what makes the rest of this insane. A website is just a computer sitting in a building somewhere holding a copy of some files. And its entire job is when someone asks for those files, hand them over. That machine can only answer so many requests at once. Every server has a ceiling. Past that ceiling, something gives. Most of the time, this doesn't matter because most websites don't get that much traffic at once. But scale changed the math. There are over 5 billion people online. Some of the biggest events on Earth get visited by a huge chunk of that population within the same hour. And a huge share of all internet traffic isn't even human. Bots crawl the web constantly, and depending on whose numbers you trust, they make up close to half of all traffic online. Then there's the traffic that's on purpose. There is an entire industry of people who want websites offline. Competitors trying to knock out a rival during a sale. Extortion, people proving they can do it. And the method is almost always the same because it's stupidly simple. If a server can only handle so many requests before it breaks, send it more requests than that all at once from everywhere. This is called a DDoS attack, a distributed denial of service. You don't need one powerful computer. You need a lot of ordinary ones, firing at the same target at the same moment. Where does an attacker get that many ordinary computers? From us. From old routers nobody updated, cheap cameras with default passwords, smart devices sitting quietly on home networks, secretly infected with malware that lets someone else control them. One infected device is nothing. A network of hundreds of thousands of them, all controlled by one person, is a weapon. It's called a botnet, and it turns ordinary people's ordinary devices into an army without them ever knowing it happened. So picture the real scale of what a website can face, not a busy day. An organized flood, coordinated in advance, arriving from millions of devices scattered across the planet, all designed to hit the exact same target at the exact same time. Some of the largest attacks ever recorded have thrown over 100 million requests per second at a single target, per second, not per day. Against that, a single server in a single building answering requests one at a time doesn't stand a chance. It's like trying to stop a flood with your hands. And yet, websites don't die like this. Not most of them, not most of the time. So either every website secretly has a fortress of servers standing by just in case, or something else is going on. It's the second one. Let's actually watch what happens to a server with nothing protecting it. At 0 seconds, everything's normal. At 1 second, the first wave arrives, thousands of requests from all over the world. The server has no way to know these are fake, so it tries to answer everyone. At 3 seconds, the wave grows, tens of thousands of requests a second, faster than the server can clear them. At 5 seconds, real visitors start noticing pages that used to load instantly now spin and never finish. At 10 seconds, the server's memory and processing power are maxed out. At 15 seconds, it goes down, not gracefully, it just stops responding to everyone, attackers, and real customers alike. This isn't hypothetical. In late 2016, an attack using exactly this kind of hijacked device network hit a company that handled part of the internet's core address lookup system. For hours, huge chunks of the internet across the US and Europe simply stopped working. So, knowing all that, here's the real question: why isn't the entire internet constantly collapsing? Because most websites you use every day are facing some version of this pressure constantly, and something else is standing in front of the server, taking the hit before it ever reaches the part that could actually break. Think of it like a front desk. If anyone off the street could walk straight into the server room, that would be insane. So instead, there's a layer standing between the public and the real machinery, checking who's coming in and only letting real traffic through. That's what this hidden layer is. It's a distributed network of infrastructure sitting between users all over the world and the real server where a website actually lives. You've probably heard the name Cloudflare, though others do similar things. Instead of every visitor connecting to one server on the other side of the planet, visitors connect to whichever location in this network happens to be closest to them. That single idea does two things at once. It makes the site load faster because there's less distance to travel, and it spreads the load across hundreds of locations instead of slamming into one building. Suddenly, that flood of 100 million requests a second isn't hitting one server. It's split across a global network built specifically to absorb exactly that. But spreading the load is only half of it. Something at each location has to actually decide what's real. First, a huge amount of what a website serves doesn't change often, so the network keeps cached copies at each location. 1,000 people asking for the same image get served from a local copy, and the real server answers once instead of 1,000 times. Second, filtering. The network is watching an enormous slice of the entire internet's traffic at once, so it recognizes the difference between how a real visitor behaves and how a script blasting requests behaves, even when any single request looks harmless alone. If a source gets flagged as an attacker anywhere on the network, that gets remembered everywhere on the network. There's also a much blunter rule running alongside all of that. No single source gets to make more than a certain number of requests in a given window. Full stop. And that quick verification moment you've seen, the brief pause before a page loads, is the system testing whether whatever's asking can actually behave like a real browser. Most bots can't. And when it's a genuine flood, the network simply absorbs it and drops it in bulk because its total capacity, spread across its entire footprint, is enormous, built specifically to have more headroom than any single attack is likely to throw at it. Third, routing. Whatever legitimate traffic survives, all of that gets sent to whichever real server currently has room for it. And if one server starts struggling, traffic gets rerouted automatically, often before anyone notices. None of this is static either. It's a constant arms race. The moment bots find a pattern that gets past the filters, it stops working because the network keeps retraining and rolling out updates across every location at once. Put it all together, and the flood from earlier, the global botnet, the millions of hijacked devices firing in unison, hits this layer, and almost none of it ever reaches the part of the internet that could actually break. That's why the site doesn't go down. Not because the attack wasn't real, because there's an entire planet spanning system whose only job is to stand in the way of exactly this, silently, for a huge share of the internet right now. So go back to the start. Someone opens a page, it loads in under half a second, and they have no idea what just happened underneath them. That gap between what they experienced and what actually occurred isn't an accident. It's the entire point. A layer this effective is invisible when it's working. The moment you notice it, something has already gone wrong. And this isn't rare. A meaningful percentage of all web traffic on Earth passes through one of these networks before it ever reaches its actual destination. Every time you've opened a news site during huge breaking news, checked a ticket page during a massive on sale rush, or loaded an app during a huge live event, there's a good chance one of these hidden layers was quietly absorbing a flood you never knew was happening. The internet doesn't defy the normal rules of pressure and failure. A single server alone still fails under too much traffic. That part was never wrong. What changed is that almost nothing critical online is a single server alone anymore. It's a single server standing behind a shock absorber, built because someone a long time ago thought through exactly this scenario and decided the fix wasn't a bigger, stronger server. It was a system that never lets the flood reach the server at all. So, next time a page just loads, no delay, no error, nothing, remember that nothing happening is not the same as nothing happened. You just don't see any of it. That's the whole design.